Has Oregon become the epicenter of the women's basketball world? Well, there's an argument to be made for it. And somebody who is as qualified as anyone I know to make it, Kelly Graves, is here to join us. Locked on Women's Basketball starts now.
You are Locked On Women's Basketball, your daily podcast on women's basketball.
Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hi, everyone, and welcome to Locked On Women's Basketball. I'm your host, Howard Megdal, and I want to thank you for making us your first listen every day. You guys keep showing up for us. 340,000 of you listening in April alone, the way we show up for you 6 days a week. And of course, it's not just me. It is the incredible team across the board at The Next, thenexthoops.com, where we have over 100 reported pieces every single month. Go ahead and subscribe for either $9 a month or $72 a year, and you get all of them sent directly to your email, along with all the podcasts and everything we do over at thenexthoops.com. And I will say that we are everywhere. And so it was not a huge surprise to me. We had Lauren Rouse, one of our correspondents down at Duke, talking about, what are our stories going to look like coming out of opening weekend of the NCAA tournament? And the point I made to her at that time was, yeah, they're a double-digit seed, but Kelly Graves in Oregon, they have a way of making noise even when they're double-digit seeds, as many Elite Eights have found out. So, Kelly, it's great to see you. I'm curious, and we'll get into this more in segment 2 and segment 3 as well, just bigger picture. Segment 1, we're talking WNBA coming to Oregon, but just take me through like that moment of that weekend, what it felt like to see that team come together once again.
Okay, you lost me right from the start. So are you going back to my team at Duke?
I am.
Okay, all right. You went from there to the WNBA. All right, Howard.
But I want people.
I'm a coach. I'm a little slow.
No,
Sorry.
not at all. I was all over. Let's start there. Let's start with just like what that weekend felt like. To be able to get that big win over Vanderbilt, to really make noise in a building it's a hard place for anyone to win.
Well, it was kind of deja vu all over again, as they say. Back in 2017, we made it to the NCAA tournament with a bunch of freshmen: Sabrina, Ionescu, Ruthie Hebert, Mallory McGuire. That group. Yeah. We were a 10 seed and went to Durham and upset Temple on a last-second shot to move on. And similarly this year, we beat Vanderbilt, also the 7 seed. In a great game, one of the better games of the NCAA tournament. We gave back about a 17 or 18 point lead somewhere in that second half, and they tied it, and we then beat them in overtime. But, and then gave Duke really all they could handle that, 2 days later. And I was sure hoping to have the same magic that we had 8 years ago. But in the end, Duke made the plays down the stretch. We had a chance to win the game. We just didn't. But it was, a great experience in a lot of ways. I mean, were coming off kind of a tough year, the year before, and so it was kind of redemptive in some ways. It was good to kind of be back on that national stage and making some noise. And yeah, I'm pretty familiar with being a double-digit seed. I think that Vanderbilt game was actually my 10th win as a double-digit seed in the NCAA tournament. A lot of those came when I was up at Gonzaga, but we had a few here as well. So it was fun, a great experience. Really proud of my team and loved my team. It was a fun group to coach all year long.
Yeah, one of my favorite stats is that you've taken multiple double-digit seed programs to the Elite Eight with Gonzaga. You had a point guard back then. I don't know what happened. Courtney Vandersloot or something, I think. Yeah, no, it's maybe the NCAA has some questions to answer about how.
Yeah, Courtney went to. I've been pretty fortunate, to have been carried at least 8 years of my career by Vandersloot, and then later by Sabrina at the point guard. It sure makes your life easier as a coach, doesn't it, to have those kind of coaches out on the court for you?
I mean, and then how does a Sabrina team end up as a double-digit seed? How does a Sloot team? But anyway, that's a different conversation for a different time. But again, Sabrina, and that's where I first met you, was I saw your team during Sabrina's freshman year go out to USC. You were down, I think, 16 at the half, and came back and won that game with a massive second half. And I just came away thinking, there's some special things going on here. You obviously will be, I think, associated with Sabrina in so many significant ways when people talk about your career. You had the chance to have her back at Oregon for this WNBA preseason game. Just kind of take me through how it came about and, what are the most significant points of that experience that you guys just saw?
Well, it started, earlier, this year during the winter. Jonathan Kolb, their general manager at the Liberty, just called me and said, "Hey, Kelly, we're interested in coming out there for a game, playing it right there in Eugene. Do you think that would be okay?" And I go, "Well, yeah, we'd love it. Let me just run it up the flagpole." So I sent it on to the administration. They did everything from there, and yeah, it was an amazing experience, for everybody involved. We ended up selling the place out at 12,300. Sabrina's last year here was unfortunately the COVID year when the NCAA tournament was canceled. And we would have been a number one seed and really, I think, a favorite to win it all that year. I mean, we just kind of had everything rolling at that point. And so we would have had more than likely 2 games in Eugene, and then my guess is we'd have been in the Portland regional, 2 games in Portland to get to the Final Four. And and Sabrina never got, and her teammates never got that chance to play what they would have known. Hey, this is my last game at Matthew Knight Arena. And so I think by them coming back, especially after having won a championship, I think was really special. I think it gave our fans a chance, to celebrate her and Niara Sabally, who is also on the Liberty, one last time. And it also gave Sabrina a little bit of closure. She got that send-off kind of game, here in Eugene that I think she really deserved and would have loved. So, it was, it was a great night. Sabrina played well. Her team played well, and the opponents played well. The Toyota team.
Mm-hmm.
I think everybody thought it was just going to be a rollover, but they hung in there and shot the ball well from the three. So it was just a great night all the way around. A lot of people, enjoyed it, and hopefully we can maybe do it again.
That team, to my mind, is one of the great what ifs in sports history. When you think back, how have you made your peace with it? I do wonder about that because we know that for everything to come together, to fall in the right place, you can do everything right, but there's a certain amount of fate that goes into it. And did you talked about closure for Sabrina? Did you feel a sense of closure?
Not really. I mean, that the night, that they were here, that really wasn't about me. I was kind of a bystander, in the background the whole time. Yeah, I don't think that'll ever, there's a hole in my heart that will always be there. I feel for our players because, at that point we'd won 19 in a row. I think 11 of those 19 were against teams in the top 25, and included a game at Gamble Pavilion, Connecticut's worst home loss ever. And we were just playing well, and had things rolling. And like you said, schools like Oregon, where we haven't been in that position very often in women's basketball, those opportunities don't come along very, very often. And so, it was, I still struggle with it, but there were a lot of people that didn't get a chance. There were a lot of teams that had players that maybe would have made their first and only NCAA tournament appearance, and high school state tournaments. So I get it. Everybody was in that position, but selfishly looking at our program, that would have been some validation, I think, as to the program we'd built.
No question in my mind. And I was there for that game at Gamble. I remember it well. And you come out of there feeling like, look, South Carolina was a really good team that year too. I mean, there nothing was guaranteed, but you guys had as good a chance, if not better, than anyone in the country to win that year. So yeah.
And Howard, it's kind of crazy. We never had a chance to get together as a team. Did you know we've never been together
Yeah.
since then. After we had beaten Stanford, I think we beat Stanford in the championship game by about 35.
Right.
And, we have a couple of weeks before the NCAA tournament starts. And I've always given our players 4 or 5 days off.
Mm-hmm.
And so, what happened is after that game, we kind of all spread out and went with the wind. Several went home. Some came back here to Eugene. I went out recruiting. I was actually in the South when we got word. And so, that group wasn't together. We didn't have a chance to all meet and say, sorry, it's canceled, whatever. And, hopefully one day, one of my, I guess, things I want to have done is for that team to come back at some point, all the pieces, and have a little bit of closure together.
I'd love to see it. And again, within the framework of what is happening for basketball in the state, really significant. So we're going to talk a little bit about that in segment 2, and also use that as a bridge to talk about the team you had and the team that you have coming back, which is a really significant bit of overlap. Much more with Kelly Graves, Oregon head coach. I'm Howard Megdal. You're listening to Locked On Women's Basketball. Locked On Women's Basketball is brought to you by Wayfair. The days are getting longer, the weather's warming up, and people are spending more time outside, which means it is the perfect time to refresh your outdoor space. Whether you're working with a big backyard or a small balcony, Wayfair has everything you need to make it feel more like you. Wayfair's massive selection of outdoor essentials makes it easy to transform any space into your ideal summer setup. From comfy conversation sets to sleek dining tables and outdoor decor, they've got it all, and at prices that fit your budget. I can tell you, my wife and I, as we figure out what our outdoor space is supposed to look like this summer, Wayfair is the first place we go to check it out. Shop a huge selection of outdoor furniture online. This summer, get outside with Wayfair. Head to wayfair.com right now. That's WAYFAIR.com. Wayfair, every style, every home. Howard Megdal, Locked On Women's Basketball, here with Kelly Graves. And this is a point of personal privilege for me as a host. I don't think we see a WNBA team in Portland without the proof of concept that you have provided with the way you've grown your program for people to understand what the state of Oregon is for women's basketball. And so that's for me to say, not for you to say. I get that. But I do wonder, do you take any level of pride in the fact that we are now seeing the WNBA in Portland? You're seeing that, I mean, it was a given. That place was going to sell out when the preseason came on campus. And just the way in which women's basketball is now an integral part of the sports fabric there.
Yeah, well, I think Portland's a perfect fit for the WNBA. I mean, they have shown with the success of the Portland Thorns in the women's soccer, pro soccer league, that they will support, women's sports there. We've had a few regionals in Portland. They've been among the best attended, events ever. And you've got Oregon State and Oregon, 2 top 20 fan bases in the country. So it was kind of a natural, I think, fit. It really was. And, certainly I had nothing to do with it. But I think the fact that we've shown that, people will support women's sports here, and I think we have definitely been part of that. So I'm really happy. In fact, the day we had the Liberty game here, Inky Sun, the new president of the Portland franchise, was down. She and I had a chance to spend about an hour together and just talk. And she's really excited. By the way, very impressive. So that's definitely going to be well run up there. You can tell. So it's exciting. And now for my players to be able to, during the summer when they're here working out, it gives them something else to do. Go up and watch, a pro game. So, it's a win-win. And that's the team that I'm going to try and get down here next spring. Maybe we can get the new Portland franchise to play somebody here in Eugene and kind of get the fans around here excited about them.
I mean, there's connectivity here, and we know this in this space for a long time. There's been sort of this open-ended question. How do you translate the excitement for women's college basketball into fandom for the WNBA? And to my mind, I've written about this. The WNBA has done an exponentially better job on this front over the last couple of years. The fact that it took until last year for the WNBA to be advertising during the women's NCAA tournament is almost mind blowing in a way when you think about, that obvious pathway you're trying to have. And to my mind, what's so interesting about it is this can go in both directions, which is to say that I wonder how much you think it will be a boost to what you build in Oregon year in and year out, that there is a WNBA team there, that there is that sort of culture of basketball that extends all the way to the professional level now as you look to bring in players.
Oh, I think it's going to be big. Yeah, I think right now women's basketball, and certainly in this region, we're riding the crest of a really big wave. And what we do with it now is up to us, right? We've got to capitalize on it. We don't want to come crashing down when that wave, breaks. So yeah, I'm excited to partner with them and hopefully them with us, and we can work together to really make this a kind of a basketball area. I think it is, but I think we even have room to grow.
The team you have also has room to grow. And I want to talk about just in the context of, again, you gave Duke, as you said, everything they could handle and played really well here in the second round of the NCAA tournament. If we could it would just take a while, even if it takes up the rest of the program, we can do that. That's fine. Can you give me the list of the players who are transferring from the team that after the end of the season?
Well, listen, we've had our fair number of transfers here. I don't think any more or less than anybody else, but this year, yeah, Howard, it's it was great. All 9 of our players returned. I think there's only 3 Power 4 schools that had no transfers, and which really puts us ahead of the game. It's amazing to we're on quarters here, so we actually still have a couple weeks of school left. Everybody else is done, and they're getting ready to come back for the summer. We're still in spring quarter, but just to see how our team is, they're getting together every day and playing. We're allowed to work out with them, and just the growth that we're seeing. Whereas a lot of programs like us last year were just kind of scrambling to get a roster together. We're ahead of the game, so I'm really excited about that. And then this time of year it gives our young players a chance for leadership opportunities, that may not have if your whole team's not here. Mm-hmm. So, yeah, it's just I'll tell you, it's still a busy spring, a little bit more so than typical. But in our case, we didn't have to scramble and go out and find, and fill a roster. We were able to go out and we got 3 really good transfers. We identified 3 areas of a weakness or areas we wanted to build up, and we went out and got some depth at the point with Estera Tuhina from Washington State. We needed a playmaking kind of scoring guard. And we got that in Avery Kane, a transfer from UCLA, and then we needed some depth and some production from the 4 spot. And we picked up a young lady from Fresno State who averaged 19 and 10s, had an amazing career, named Mia Jacobs. So really, we filled the 3 needs that we had, and I think that's just I think that'll pay dividends next year, certainly.
It's interesting to me, and to your point, and I would just point out as well. Having continuity has always mattered in college basketball. It feels like it matters so much more now because it's at such a premium that you're going to have it in a way that almost none of your opponents will. But the point that it's so striking to me, even your 4 can get up and down the floor and the guards can move. This is a team that plays faster now than even those Sabrina era teams did, than you guys have. Talk to me about that. How much of that is a philosophical thing? How much of that was just Deja Kelly is just lightning up and down the court last year for you? Like, where does that come from? It's so interesting to me.
Well, Howard, you and I know each other, and we've known each other for a while. I'm an offensive coach. I always have been. I believe in offense. I think I'm one of the few coaches, if maybe not the only coach, that's had 2 different schools lead the nation in scoring. We've done it here at Oregon. We did it at Gonzaga. And so I love that kind of game. That's why last year, even though it was rewarding in some ways, it was difficult in others because we couldn't score. We struggled to shoot the ball. And so we had to grind out games. We had to play great defense and shorten the games. And we had some success doing it, even though that's out of character for me. So I think what we've done, we've been able to go out and recruit players that can, A, get up and down the floor, B, who are very skilled and versatile, I think is really important. We've got almost everybody on my team can play 2 or 3 different positions. And we've put a premium on shooting the basketball. So we're definitely going to kind of get back to my roots, play quick. I've got some outstanding lead guards. One, Katie Fiso, who I think is absolutely dynamite. She's got a chance to be a really special player, and I've had some amazing point guards, in my career. I think Katie can be one of those. And then Elisa Mevius, who we missed. She didn't play in the NCAA tournament or the Big Ten tournament last year because she had a broken right hand. And she's the one that won a gold medal last year in Paris in the 3-on-3 for Germany, and had a great year for us at the point. So we've got those two kind of running the show, and like I said, the transfer from Washington State. So we're going to be able to, I think, really push it and transition, look for early opportunities, spread people out. It's going to be a fun team to coach.
And a fun team to watch, as always, especially in the Big Ten, being able to do that and push the pace, I know is going to be so significant as you run those gauntlets. I mean, that schedule is mind-blowing. Every year.
It is. And, it's funny, Howard, I think there's a perception out there certainly was in my case when I got into the league. Last summer I did a deep dive into, every program, how they played, each coach, their histories. And, the Big Ten did not have the reputation that I thought, right? Or it didn't have the game to match the reputation. 6 of the top 20 most efficient teams in the country last year were from the Big Ten. And there weren't any Big Ten teams in the top 50 defensively. So, I had it completely reversed. And so, we went through this year, and I've always kind of gone with double bigs. And it was more difficult this year because everybody kind of goes with a 4-out spread offense. And so I've kind of recruited to match that a little bit. So, it's kind of interesting what you learn when you really look at a league from the outside.
It is fascinating. Of course, it is a league that has changed in significant part because of a lot of Pac-12 teams coming in and
certainly
changing the identity on top of it. Yeah, no,
all 4 of the new teams made the NCAA tournament, and 2 were 1 seeds. So that's pretty impressive. That was a good pickup by the Big Ten. They had a nice little free agent season, portal season.
It's true. I'm still sad about the Pac-12, but that's
a
whole other conversation. I know so many are 108 years. Anyway, Big Ten moving forward, and the current moment back with Kelly Graves of Oregon in segment 3. I'm Howard Megdal. You're listening to Locked On Women's Basketball. Howard Megdal, Locked On Women's Basketball, back here with Kelly Graves. And Kelly, when you are a coach now, your April, even in a year where you have a lot of stability, when you're bringing in some new players, is so fundamentally different. Can you just talk to me about the way in which your day-to-day life has changed? I mean, when do you make vacation plans? All of that, like in terms of what it means to be in this profession now.
Well, I think, the great coaches work their butts off year round anyway, right? Before it's just a little different. There was some time in the spring and, later in the summer when you could use that time for family and, maybe vacations or just kind of to re-energize and refresh yourself. Mm-hmm. You just don't seem to have that kind of time off anymore. I think, we're certainly recruiting a lot more in the spring. It's frantic recruiting. You're trying to get a transfer in here as quickly as possible. So it's just a little different pace. You can still work with your team, but I think there was more of an emphasis of player development in the spring. Now it just seems like you're all over the place, and it's made it a little more difficult. We have these mandated NCAA or these shutdowns. It's not even NCAA; they're women's basketball, And we had our league meetings, and they were talking about adding a third shutdown. I don't think we should have any shutdown. I don't get it. If somebody wants to work, let them work. We're mandating now time off, and it doesn't work as well for us quarter schools because we still, I get it. Semester schools, it comes at a time, the spring shutdown, when they can take a vacation, plan a vacation, because their players aren't around. Well, ours are, so we're still working, right? So it's just, and now they've added an extra, weekend to recruit. There's one in May now. There's one in June. June always seemed to be that month where you could focus on A, your players, B, camps, and for us head coaches, we're golfing in all these tournaments with alumni and things like that. And, you don't have really time to do as much anymore. But it's okay. It's the profession we have. And listen, it's a great profession. I love it. And I'm blessed to do what I do.
The joy you bring to it is evident. It does worry me that a lack of any sort of time off, any sort of break is going to drive really good people out of the profession. In your mind, though, you think it just comes down to people being able to make their own pace, huh?
Absolutely. And I think, again, I don't view it as a job. Obviously it's my career, but I love what I do. I love coming to the office every morning. I love working out with our players. To me, it's fun. I think anybody and whatever you do, if you dread what you do and you don't enjoy going to work, then do something else, man. Life is short. Find your passion and go with it. But, I don't know. I talk to a lot of young people who think about getting in business, and I have nothing but great things to say. There's some drawbacks, but it's like that in any profession, I think. I'm fortunate. I have 3 sons, and a wife who, loves sports and loves what I do and is very supportive. But 2 of my 3 sons are in the profession of coaching. My youngest was on the Florida men's staff this year, and they won a national championship. I was along for that whole ride, and what a thrill. And then my middle son, Jack, is, he's the most successful coach in the family, and that includes a national championship coach over there. He's something like 125-5 in his last 4 or 5 years. So, and then my oldest son, Max, we just were back in Baltimore celebrating his 30th birthday. I can't believe I have a 30-year-old son, but he's in the business in terms of analytics, and he's worked for the Dallas Mavericks. So, I guess what I'm saying is I've been able and blessed to have the profession affect my family. They've loved being in the gym. They've loved being on trips. They love being around the team. And it shows because that's the profession that they've gotten into. So, it's something that our family enjoys together.
A coaching tree in a very literal way.
Hey, Howard, seriously, how about my youngest son, Will, who I just spoke with this morning? What a great guy. So he's been to a Final Four in 2019 as a son, right? He went as a player at Gonzaga in 2021, and then he's now been as a coach in 2025. So there aren't very many people that can say they've been in those 3 capacities. Not many people can say they've been in any one capacity.
Nope.
And he's done it in all 3. So I'm really proud of him, and he's got a bright future.
He's 3 ahead of me. All I've gotten to do is cover Final Four, so it's very impressive. Well, Kelly Graves, always great to chat with you. Always great to see what you are building at Oregon. But thank you on behalf of our listeners, and to our listeners, thank you for making us your first listen every day. We will be back with you tomorrow, as we are 6 days a week. Till then, I'm Howard Megdal, wishing all of you a wonderful day.
You are Locked On Women's Basketball, your daily podcast on women's basketball.
Part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.